So you had this great idea. Women have come of age. Let them work in the workplace like men. Virginia Slims, you've come a long way, baby. Don't let those male chauvinists keep you down. Do you know who bankrolled women's liberation movement in this country? Look it up. Okay? I'll give you a hint. It starts with the letter R. Very famous family. Okay? Why did they do that? Why would they want women to work? You now have two members of a household to tax. Okay? Instead of one. What happened with women's lib? Shortly after all these incredible propositions were put forth, now two members of a household had to go to work to support a family. I remember this as a child. It happened in my generation. I remember the day when my mother had to start looking for work. Didn't have to, but it was like things are getting expensive, and this has to happen. That is another perfect example of what I am talking about. Okay? What is a successful way to do things? I mentioned Gorgeous Dre. If you look up the legislature that he was instrumental in creating in the Seattle, Washington area, you will find he had a very productive and a very cordial relationship with the very people who killed his brother, the police department. And he did that because knowing the enemy meant, instead of saying things like, get rid of all police or kill the police, he worked with the forces in control of the police to create legislature that was effective and protected people, including oversight and other such things. That's an example of using proper technique, okay? When you say things like, let's just kill the cops, let's just do this to the extreme, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to pendulum back, just like it is now. Now, you had all this period when Obama was in House and subsequent, where we supposedly made all this progress and on progressive causes. Okay? Those things are pushed. And you had all this type of censorship that came out of what was well intended. Okay? And this is a fact. I'm not taking an opinion, but this idea that people have to control their language regarding pronouns, this idea that people have to speak in such a way that they walk on eggshells regarding their opinions, is censorship, okay? We live in a free country, and any time censorship is evoked, it is dangerous by either part or party of any particular institution in this country. It doesn't matter what the censorship is geared towards, okay? And we are seeing a backlash now. The pendulum, if you push it up here, it goes here, okay? Now, I don't know what's going to happen in this country, but I do know the concepts that were used, and we're going to discuss them. First of all, I'm going to show you some words with the characters. I apologize for my hand. I used to have a pretty good hand with my kanji, but it's been a while. The first word you will see is kyojutsu. The second is tatamae, and the third is hone. This, conceptually, is the apex of how you affect your enemy at a distance and control them at a distance. Kyojutsu comes from Buddhist understandings of the relative truth of all propositions and points of view. Okay? In other words, when there is no absolute, then notions of absolute can be controlled. Okay? Once you understand dharma and karma, that is the agency that protects you from this. Your dharma is your path. If you understand your reasons why you do things, you're safe. Okay? But once you stray outside of that, you can be controlled. Kyojutsu is the idea that falsehood and truthhood are relative measures that can be used to influence an effect. In other words, somebody says, well, you're a progressive person, so why don't you believe that a child should be able to get sexually changed at a young age? What's wrong with you? Okay? Nobody says that to you. The point being, society puts these things out there and it tests your limits. How does society test our limits? In fashion, putting the pants down to the crack of your ass, okay? Like a prison bitch walking around, and society saying, this is fashionable. What do you think people do that for? If people will actually buy that shit, what do you think that tells the people who have power, okay, and want to control what you think and do? That's a way to very easily test kyojitsu, what you will accept as truth and falsehood. Because your ability to not discern those concepts or to discern them has a lot to do with your ability to be controlled by people who have real power and wealth. Okay? Bill Gates is not a nice person. Okay? Let's put it that way. The things that these people do is to make them richer. People in the middle areas have less and less every day because more people are being born and there's less in that category, less financial means, okay? You see it in Bitcoin. Bitcoin should be at about 170 at least. It's a concept if these fucking whales that keep taking great amounts of money in and out of the system who probably came from somewhat modest means themselves, but are a bunch of fuckheads. Everybody could use Bitcoin and create wealth. And there wouldn't be anything anybody could do about it. But, again, okay, by making that seem like it's up and down, up and down, up and down, it scares people. And they'd rather invest in dollars, which every day lose value. You know the truth about Bitcoin? Go look up a chart of Bitcoin for 5 years and tell me what you see. You'll see the truth about Bitcoin. And I'm using Bitcoin as an example. Okay? Again, does that mean Bitcoin is good, bad? No. It means that Bitcoin is a way for people to invest in something that is purely a means of transitional wealth. Okay? The wealth is in what people put in it and how they use it. People in the middle areas, if they put their means into that and used it, they would have a standard bearer of wealth that had a lot of value, more value than the currency in this country. That's an example, but we're manipulated, okay? We're controlled by forces that make it scary for people. And I don't know, maybe they will crash Bitcoin, okay? Okay, we're going to go to our final installment here.